Hey everybody, I'm Captain Tommy Scoville. And you are on the lifeboat. My favorite part of that. The drums, the horns. Thank you, Marth. I honestly walk around doing this thing in my head all day long. Try it though. I've done worse things in my head. All right, peeps. What have we got here? Didn't mute myself. Hate when that happens. Look at that. 9 people here and 9 thumbs up. Well, that's good stuff. I like it. Alrighty, everyone. So, before I get rolling, I remember reading once about a Beatles song that it's that Admiral Halsey song where it really there's like 3 different songs, right? And they're distinctive. Like you can tell where one song stopped and the other one started. And I heard Paul McCartney interviewed on it, and he said, "Oh no, it's 3 songs. We were never able to finish any one of them. So eventually, we just sort of linked them all together, right? And decided to release it. It ended up being a big hit. And I say that because when I do shows with you guys, and somebody says something that I think is epic, like amazingly or audaciously or whatever it was, flawed. Somebody, my man said this morning, and Alan Ballantyne, good to see you. And I wrote it down. I write these things down, and they get the brain going, a little bit later, and hopefully it turns into a show, because when you've done 730 of these, it's not like we're talking about unique places on the planet, of which there's a billion. We're talking about concepts behind sobriety and sober living, and you start getting up in the 700s. Trust and believe I've covered everything 5 times. So you're just always looking for a new angle and a new way to do it. And so there was a lot of things that I've had on the list, and I busted out my journal today, and I started looking through this for a thread. I was looking for something that was going to jump off the page, slap me in the face, and say, this is what we're doing tonight. And not going to happen. So it's probably going to be more in line with with that Beatles song. And by that, I mean, there's going to be a whole bunch of subjects that have got my brain percolating. And as I was reading through my my notes and going through stuff, there's some stuff that jumped off the page of me and things that I wanted to talk about. Fair enough, M. Hunt. You have more important things to do, and we get it. But before I do, some of you may have missed the morning show. Not everybody gets up at 5 a.m. Or whatever the time zone is where you are at. But the West Coasters, hey, Drops, good to see you. So if you missed the morning show, I want to do a shout out one more time to Heather. I thought that was just an amazing, really an amazing show. And, to step up to the plate and do this, especially on someone else's channel. You know what I mean? There's sort of like an added layer of pressure. If you don't want to. It's one thing if I come on here and I screw up my channel, right? But if I go on to someone else's and screw it up, I would really feel horrible about that. And whenever I make a guest appearance anywhere, there's always more pressure. Even when I went over to Heather's channel, there's just more pressure. Mark and I joked about it right before we went live over there when Heather interviewed us. I said, do you feel weird getting ready for this? He's like, yeah, a little bit. It's just, so to have her come on here and just kill it, really made me feel good. And I like the idea of having a female voice on here from time to time. And obviously you all do, because the number of emails that we had prior to that, used to try to get me to drag Fiona on here, which Fiona made very clear is never going to happen. But seeing as Heather is comfortable and good at it, and wants to continue to get it rolling, I think that it's going to be a good fit. I really do. So thanks again, Heather. I appreciate that. Yesterday, I was not sick. There are people who thought that I was. What I was meeting with a consultant. And as I said on the morning show, I'm not big on meeting with consultants. Thanks, ZW. Really appreciate you. I'm not big on consultants for anything. Maybe because at one time I worked as a consultant and I kind of know that it's, they don't do a whole lot and they get paid a whole lot. But like I said this morning, I always thought I was kind of an intelligent guy. So I'm not going to pay somebody a large amount of money to tell me something that I ought to be able to figure out on my own. However, I'm really not that smart. and I'm getting better at knowing what I'm not smart at. So the individual that I met with had the express, his job basically was to go from where we are right now to the next level. And that means styling out the studio, right? And changing some equipment. It means all kinds of things. It also means sort of shopping out the boat to other places. And as I said this morning, you talk, people talk all the time about selling out, right? I will call this baby the Smith lifeboat. If Smith owns a rehabilitation chain of rehabilitation places across the United States, we will slap his name on the side of the boat quicker than you can say anything. Quicker than you can say sober. People, if we can bring money in that I can then use to get more people into rehabilitation and to get sober, trust and believe I'll do it. Even if I got to wear a bikini while I do it, right? So I don't ever want to hear any of that sellout crap because I'm not doing it to buy a house. I'm doing it to help people. So yeah, we're absolutely shopping this thing around to everybody. And we should all be praying that it's about the people, says Monk, and he's absolutely right. This is a golden opportunity because there is some talk with some stuff that really has synergy that might just end up really taking this stuff to the next level. And that, people, is one hell of a segue. And by that I mean, the next level is one of the things that I had written down in the book. One of the things that jumps out at you if you've done 730 of these videos is we have a core group of people that are here all the time. Faithful as hell, great people. And with few exceptions, they're sober, right? A lot of them have, a good deal of sobriety. And to sit and talk about, how to get sober and continually do it again and again, there really is a time when you sort of have to take the entire concept to the next level and sort of talk about, as opposed to being theoretical sobriety, right? We're going to move into practical sobriety. And how that's going to take shape will have a lot to do with every single person that starts working this. This morning I was talking a lot. Andy Paul, good to see you. This morning I was talking about the driving force. If you do any research at all and you actually start to look at the rock stars in this arena, because there are rock stars in this arena, there are people who have studied and come up with just some of the greatest concepts ever that really took the whole rehabilitation concept and the whole rehabilitation community from the 1930s into the 2000s, right? And if you start to look and follow any of those people, their big push, and has been for probably the last 30 years, is that the drugs are just a symptom. The drugs are just a symptom. There is an underlying problem, and I know that people love to argue on that, right? There's a lot of people that just don't want to. I just did it to get high, right? I was that guy. I used to say that all the time. Man, I ain't got no problems. I didn't get beat as a kid. My family loved me. Everything was great. Oh, there was something, right? You don't do heroin for 30 years if something isn't making you feel really, really uncomfortable in your own skin. And I think we can all agree that addiction is the desire to make sense of a life that doesn't make sense, right? The first time that you did, right, put your drug of choice in right there. But the first time you did booze, the first time you did blow, whatever, instantly, a minute later, 2 minutes later, or depending on how you're getting it in there, literally that fast. And instantly, you felt comfortable in your own skin, right? You felt like this is how the rest of the world must feel all the time. I feel normal. And this is a concept that people who have never had a drug addiction probably don't understand. If you're new to the boat and you haven't heard me talk about this subject before, I've never met a drug addict who's comfortable sitting in silence. Drives them nuts. And it's just one more sort of affectation, because sitting in silence makes you do what, right? You start concentrating on yourself. You start doing the automatic negative thoughts start taking over and slapping the crap out of you. So addiction is the feeble attempt to put structure into a life that doesn't have any. It's the feeble attempt to make yourself feel good in your own skin. So once you have gotten to the point where you realize that it's possible to link together 30 days without getting high, or 60 days, or 4 years, or whatever the case may be. One of the traps that people find themselves in, and this is one of the reasons why a lot of people have real issues with sort of 12-step programs, is because there's an environment that pops up around these things that, the only way to put it is it becomes an addiction to the point where it feels like a cult, right? The people come back day after day and they show up, but it's the same thing. And they just talk about how I'm going to get through today, and it's one day at a time. I am of the firm belief that you get to a point where it's time to start planning a little bit more than one day at a time. I'm sorry. I really believe that. And as we start to transition from, man, I can't believe I'm sober, to now it's time to start, climbing this Everest, right? We're at the base camp. We've got that figured out. So there's going to be some things that we do to try to determine exactly what it is you're running from. And there's a bunch of people that I've spoken with in the past who have absolutely no problem whatsoever knowing exactly what they're running from. There was trauma at some point, and you realize trauma just means injury, right? That's all trauma is. So we all had injury of some kind, psychological, physical, emotional, whatever. We all have it. The real problem with trauma is then how we react to it. I know people that got into really bad car wrecks as kids. My brother is here. He will remember one from the 4th of July. We were at a fireworks show, and a guy hit a guy on a lawn about 6 feet away from us. And the kid went up in the air and did like 2 somersaults and then landed on his back. And it was vicious. And 2 days later, he was the most normal kid in the world. And I know another kid that got into a wreck that wasn't that bad. He was bumped by a car while walking a bike across a crosswalk. I'm telling you, the kid was never the same. He carried a fear around with him through the rest of high school. Like, he was paranoid about everything. It's like everything else. Whatever the trauma is the 5% that we can't control. The 95% is what you're going to do with that trauma. You're going to allow it to slap the crap out of you? Are you going to allow it to make you feel so uncomfortable in your own skin that you're going to seek out a different method? And, we've talked about this with people we interview. This is a recurring theme with addicts, that we all kind of knew we were drug addicts from the first time we got high on anything. You smoked a little pot and you were like, yeah, it's not bad. You know what I mean? It really is just one of those things that it's fun, takes the edge off, but I don't think this is the one I'm looking for. And then you keep looking, and everybody comes across that one substance, the one that just lights you up, and you think, this is it. This is how I want to spend the rest of my life. And Daniel Theobald, it's actually a pretty cool comment. The average person is usually too busy to read, but if you read a book every couple of weeks in 5 years, you'd be a master in any field that you study constantly. And it's the truth. But I'll tell you the one problem with that. Nobody is too busy to read. They're not. It's really, the whole busy thing is something that really, really freaks me out. Because I hear it every single day, with people I work with. Every day people want to tell me that they can't figure out 15 minutes a day to journal. No time. If you went to your oncologist and he said, we need 45 minutes a day, right? Because we need to do some radiation and some chemo because that tumor is growing to the point where it's going to take you out. You'd find that 45 minutes, right? Quick as hell. You would work around anything else that you had to work around. And that's our life, right? You show me what people do with their off time and I'll show you what they're into, right? I'll tell you a whole lot about people if you look at what they do with their downtime. That's the kind of thing that really, tells you who you are. But to say no one's got, there's no time to read, you're not making time to read. Everybody lays in bed for a period of time before they fall asleep, right? If you had told me 8 years ago that I would run a business, right? My own business. And that's the shipping department. That's, the purchasing agent. That's every single part of this, right? And on top of that, I would take 2 hours a day to try to help other people get sober. And I'm still going to do my journaling, and I'm still going to, all of these things. And I was going to shoehorn that into one day. I would have laughed hysterically. I literally would have laughed hysterically. But how do I, the 2 hours that I do this is a priority. It's a priority. One of the reasons that I do this at 5 a.m. is because it'll allow me to have a day, right? If I did this at 6 a.m., it means that I wouldn't be able to get into the things that I have to do in order to keep a business running. I got to get up at 4:15 to do that first video. But it's not that I don't have time. It's not that I don't have time. I promise you I have time. Another thing that keeps coming up again and again and again and again and again. So when we get sober, we find ourselves very often not in the best of shape. And that's in every sense of the word. We're not in the best of shape physically. We're not in the best of shape mentally. I mean, we're coming off very often rock bottom, but in the best of case scenario, we're still coming off a very long time that we've been getting high. So you got to start planning your life. And I get emails from people that say, man, you're living your dream. Do you think I walked out of prison and started selling watches? Right? And doing the lifeboat? Because I assure you that that's not what happened. When I walked out of prison, I went to a halfway house. And I got a job working at a shipyard. And when I went in for the interview, the gentleman asked a series of questions. The big one in the beginning was, can you pass a drug test? And that thinned out most of the herd, but I was good. So I said, absolutely, I can pass a drug test. And then he said, how do you feel about heights? Like if you had to work on a catwalk that was, say, 150 feet off the ground, would you be all right with that? And I said, yeah, shouldn't be a problem. And then he said, what about really small places? And I'm not going to lie to you people, I do not like really small places. I don't, I never went and saw a psychiatrist about it or anything like that, but I get claustrophobic and I get it bad. If an elevator stops, I get freaked out. You know what I mean? I want those doors to open as soon as that thing stops going up or down. I don't like being, and that's not that small. I took that job, and about the 4th or 5th day that I was there, they said, we're going to be cleaning out the water containers for a research vessel. And there are clips of this somewhere out there that I could still play. But it looks like the maze that they put the rat in and they put the little piece of cheese. Honestly, it's exactly what this looks like, because they don't want the water to be in one place because that would mess with the ballast of the boat. So they have these little chambers, right, that all through a hole about that big, right, go from one to the next. And I would crawl through this. My job is to go find places that the special kind of paint so that people can actually consume this water. So I had to go find any place where that looked to have been dinged or started to peel or anything else, and then I would have to prep it and paint it. And I'm talking about the smallest. When they showed me the hole in the ground, I went, oh, dude, I can't do this. And it wasn't my boss. It was another employee. I said, man, I can't do this. Like, I'm not kidding you, man. I can't do this. And he said, no, you can. And I said, I can't. He said, I did the same thing, man. He said, I was claustrophobic. You just got to do it. He said, just stare at the ground. Don't look at anything around you. Just look at the ground and keep crawling. And when you hit something, you'll know it's time to get it and get into the next one. I said, what? How do you not get lost? And he goes, oh, he has to roll a string. He's like, you hold on to this. And as you go from each one, you lay the string out. And that'll let you, it took me 27 minutes to get to the end. From one side to the other, crawling. Now, if you think that was my freaking dream job, it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. And I filmed it. And I didn't film it to be tough, because I sure didn't look tough. I filmed it so that I had somebody to talk to. Because for me, talking through anything that scares me keeps me alive. So I literally had the camera right in front of me going, oh man, are you seeing the size of this? And at 6'2", I literally could not crawl through these things. I had to put one leg and one arm and then get down. And there was one of those every 6 feet. Right now, my palms are sweating talking about it. So why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because I knew what I wanted. And it wasn't working at a shipyard. But I knew what they were paying. And at that point, I didn't care. And I watched guys who just got out of prison say, no, I'm not doing that. I'm looking for a job indoors. Or I'm looking for a job that, and I would think to myself, good Lord, man. You've been in federal prison working for 15 cents an hour. They're offering you 25 and you need to shop around. I got myopic. You know what that means? It means I can only see one thing. And that one thing was what I wanted to do. And it was this. I loved watches, but I didn't think I'd ever be selling them. This was all I was thinking about. So when everybody else was out blowing cash, right, fresh out of prison, going and buying a new pair of earbuds or the big, Dr. Dre Beats, these guys would blow their entire check. And I wouldn't spend $1. Literally. I would keep $10 out to buy energy drinks because the hours were just ridiculous. And that was about it. And I would film, and then upload the stuff. Okay. Now I come home. You think I got the dream job when I came home? Because I didn't. I went from one crap job to another crap job to another crap job to another crap job. I didn't enjoy any of them. I got a lot of laughs, right? I would come back here and talk to you guys about it. You remember when I worked at the place that was making the newspaper stuff? Absolutely hated it. The noise was as loud as anything you can imagine, and it was like watching I Love Lucy because there was an assembly line that was bringing this stuff out at a ridiculous speed. And as long as everything went good, you were great. But if you tripped and dropped something or you bumped something, they continue to come out fast. And it was stressful. It was hot. It stunk. And I think that the shifts were either 10 or 12 hours. It was not fun. It wasn't fun. Everything that we do needs to be moving us forward. Doesn't mean we're going to love it. It doesn't. There's a really decent chance you're going to hate it. But you got to put all that crap behind you. You want to hear one of the greatest rules about trying to get a job? It is 500 times easier to get a job if you have a job. For real. Employers go, obviously he shows up. These people didn't fire him, right? Or her. They're still working there. Yeah, let's get them. And right now in this country, unemployment's at 3%. I'm not going to get into the politics of it, but right now, there are a lot of jobs. There's a lot of jobs. And the reason is people aren't taking them. It's just like the convicts in the halfway house. They're holding out for something better. And why wouldn't they? They got a crap load of free money last year. They're hoping maybe it'll happen again. It was a lot of fun getting paychecks and just sitting around the house. That beats the hell out of working. It's time to start planning your life. And that's gonna translate into making lists of everything that needs to happen for you to start living like a normal person, a tax-paying square. And I'm telling you, you're going to love it. You will love it. Maybe not the first 3 or 4 weeks, but there's something ridiculous about putting on a pair of pants, sticking your hand into the pocket, and finding $25 and going, what the hell is that? When did I have $25 that wasn't important enough for me that I could forget it? I want to tell you something. For 30 years, I knew where every penny that I had was. I knew where every penny was at all times because I needed to take that money, divide it by 10, because every one of those 10s, would get me that much closer to not being sick that day. So money didn't mean anything. If you put a pile of it on the table, all it was something to trade for drugs. That was it. And these days, I have no love of money. I really don't. And I used to. I used to be that cat. I really did. And I was talking about that this morning on the lifeboat. I really used to kind of judge myself that way against other people. If you didn't shop better than I did, you were a loser. When I went to my first NA meeting, I told this story this morning. I walked in, I had a tie on, right? I had a cashmere overcoat, and I drove a really nice car to that parking lot. And when I walked inside, I thought, everybody here is a loser. I mean, look at this crowd. If you believe that you're different than the other drug addicts, if you believe you're better than the other drug addicts, or just plain different, you're going to use again. I promise you. The revelation that we are all the same, and I don't care if you are in a different country, speaking a different language, right? Nothing is different about one from the next. Addiction does not know color. It doesn't know age. It doesn't know gender. It doesn't know sexual preference. It wants to enslave and kill everybody. That's it. It wants to drag you to the absolute depths of what a crap life can be. And then it wants to take you out. But not before destroying you and as much of your family as it possibly can. That's it. So guard against believing that you're different. The problem with being different is this. Here's a set of guidelines that have worked for addicts since 1930, right? If you start believing I'm not like those people, well, then I shouldn't have to follow the same, list of rules that those people did. I'm just going to pick and choose a couple. I'm not going to do this, this, and this because that's just a pain in my butt. I'll just stop doing what I'm doing. If it was that way, if that worked, then there wouldn't be steps. There wouldn't be. There wouldn't be anything like working a program. No need for that. Just stop. Ain't going to happen. So you need to start structuring your life and you need to start moving forward. Not just concentrating on not doing dope. You got to do that in the beginning. There's no getting around that. And it might be a year of literally white knuckling it and thinking, I got to find a better way because this is killing me. But if you start adding building blocks to your life, right? You start doing stuff that might feel like busy work when you first start doing it, but it's going to become who you are. This morning, I was talking about, leaving the lifeboat and going upstairs and doing my thing. I had a lot of stuff that I had to get going for. And Caucasian Sasquatch, I needed 7 or 8 years of confinement. Absolutely, I did. Not everybody can do this on the street, and the statistics are not in our favor by any stretch of the imagination. They're not. But the people who do it successfully follow a structure. It's a miracle anytime somebody can do it, because the way this works on your brain, it's literally working in a part of your brain that regulates heartbeat. And you could no more stop that heartbeat than you could stop that craving and that message. So you got to reprogram. You can't just stop it. You got to replace the habits. So this morning I'm getting ready to take off, and I said, I got to get out of here. And Emma Hunt said, gym and a shower. Doesn't sound like a lot, does it? It's huge. It's absolutely huge. If you start structuring things like that into your life, it may seem like busy work, or it may seem like, I'm 50 something. What do I'm getting in shape. No, you're guaranteeing you're going to sleep. You're wearing yourself out. You're making sure that you're hungry, right? So that you can actually eat 3 meals a day and you can start getting nutrition in there so your brain actually works. All of the things that people complain about usually get traced back, and I mean in recovery, usually get traced back to they're not eating, they're not sleeping, and they're not exercising. If you eat and you exercise, you're going to get sleep, right? And you got hungry, angry, lonely, tired, right? They say that those are the big 4. The kind of tired you need is not the I have no energy because I didn't eat tired. That's frightening. I'm exhausted because I just walked 5 miles as fast as I could. That's beautiful, beautiful tired. That's wearing your body out before you go to sleep. And there's absolutely a mountain of scientific literature to tell you that when you do that, your body is going to get absolutely dumped with chemicals that are going to make you feel good. If you get down to the very basics of all of this, just the very basics, we used a substance to throw a light switch in our brains and in our body that made us feel normal. There are other things that throw that switch. There are. The problem is that when people quit doing drugs, they also quit doing life. So if you just stop, you're not going to find whatever throws that switch. Find your passion. Start looking for it, because it's not going to knock on your door. You're not going to get up one morning and you're going to knock, 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 knock. Hey, I'm a gym class. Really think you should come out and start maybe doing some bench press, maybe run a little bit. We've got one of those ice baths, which are really, really rowdy. Come on down. Doesn't happen that way. Neither does anything else that can become a healthy habit. It's time to get busy planning, right? If you do not plan, then you know the cliche, right? If you fail to plan, then you're planning to fail. And there really is an absolute mountain of evidence to back that up. And I've used this analogy so many times on this boat, but if you were going on a 6-day vacation and you were going to the Big Easy, right? You're going down to New Orleans. You're gonna call ahead. You're gonna get a hotel room. Then you gotta make sure you book the airfare, and then you're gonna call and find out what the cheapest rates are on a rent-a-car. Want to make sure you get a rent-a-car, and you're gonna go right down the list. Then, congratulations, Wharton, 2 months. You know what, Wharton? That's painful. If you didn't see that, people, he said his wife started again right after telling him that she would do anything for him. You know what I can tell you, Wharton? And this is just my opinion, right? It's very often it's just my opinion. But I don't think it was your wife that did that. I think we've really established that this stuff makes you not of your right mind. For instance, putting your hand on the front of a door of a bank and going, yanking the door open and going in and telling them you want all the money. Nobody in their right mind does that. Nobody. But today in the United States, a crap load of people are going to do it. I did it. I was not in my right mind. It's going to require some patience, and I know it's really, really hard, especially since it's right in your face and it's what you're being successful at. But it is a really, really tough thing. Spanx Calhoun, where are we at? I think I saw a well done Spanx. 1 week today. Attaboy. Attaboy. And before you think I'm being bad, that is my boy. It's my son. 7 days. Very, very happy for you, Calhoun. I really am. Good stuff. But yeah, Wharton, it's going to... There was an analogy somebody used in the very, very early days of the boat. I mean, when we first got running, the guy was talking about countries. And he said, if the country is run by a dictator, do you hate everybody in the country? Right, of course not. It's a stupid question. Well, you've got a dictator, or she has a dictator, that is basically running her life. Mine was run by opiates. No questions. I gave complete control over to it. And I promised people that I loved everything. And did I mean it? Yeah, probably when I said it. I probably did. It was probably something I really wanted to do. And then that feeling came. And it just, the silence got louder and louder. And the voices started telling me I was worthless and that I was never going to be anything. I was going to be a bum my entire life. Right? I was a lousy father. It just, it just starts wearing away at you. So I would go and get that substance. I wasn't trying to lie to everybody. I was just trying to figure out a method to feel okay in my own skin and get through the day. For the last 7 years and 7 months, I have been doing exactly that. 8 months now. 7 years and 8 months. I've been getting by every single day without the use of any chemicals. Right? I do not need to smoke tar. I do not need to snort anything. And I'll be really honest. I don't miss it. I don't find myself ever thinking about it. Really. The only time I ever think about substance abuse is if I happen to be talking one-on-one with somebody whose substance of choice or how they were doing it was very similar to mine. And that happens, quite a bit. And when it does, as soon as you hang up the phone, you got to call one of your 5 and go, I just spent 25 minutes listening to somebody talk about, where they're finding veins and, how much dope they're doing a day. And that's disturbing. But the way that I'm getting through this, the way that I throw my switch, right, on those feel-good chemicals, no joke. Hearing people say, I got 7 days sober. I hit 2 months today. Those things, that's my drug of choice. Yeah, it is. And I have people that tell me I'm an idiot for that. Beats the hell out of heroin, though. You know what I mean? It really does. And I honestly feel that I'm getting better as a human being. I have never told anyone on this boat to emulate me. I have never told anyone on this boat I'm a good person. I never have. You're never going to find that in 730 some odd videos. I don't do it because I'm not. But I'm trying every day to make myself a better person. I really am going out of my way to be moving forward, not backwards. And I've said this before, but my goal is for them to close the box with me having never done that crap again. So I get down to is this going to get me closer to my goal, or is this going to push me further away from my goal? And if it's something that's going to push me away from my goal, trust and believe I'm not doing it. There's no need to debate it, no need to think about it. And the longer you're sober, the more those things become really, really obvious. When people say, oh, they got this stuff that it's completely harmless. They're selling it at gas stations. Yeah, I'm good, dude. Now, at my age, it makes a lot of sense for me to try some new chemical. And then, of course, because it's I do the lifeboat, I start researching the stuff. And, it trips the MU2 receptor. That's the same one that heroin does, right? What could possibly go wrong? Trust me when I tell you that I could absolutely get addicted to that in 15 minutes. I know that. I'm never going to experiment with anything ever again. I'm not capable. I have finally gotten smart enough to realize that the only way I win a fist fight with drugs is to not get in a fist fight with drugs. It is abstinence that keeps me happy. It's abstinence that keeps me safe. And I'll tell you something. I have told the story on the lifeboat before that I can think of 4 or 5 rock bottoms. You do dope as long as I do, as long as I did. There were a lot of rock bottoms. But the one that was probably the most painful was when Calhoun came home from school and had written a little assignment. It's like a paragraph. They wanted them to write what a hero was. And he wrote that his dad was his hero. And it was a really low day. Because he didn't know any better. He really thought I was that guy, but I wasn't, and I knew that. And it was a crap day. In fact, it probably turned itself into a crap week or a crap month. I was doing as much dope as I possibly could to try to make sure that I could stop thinking about that. Today, I was talking with my son who said, you know what, you're doing a great job with this. I'm really proud of you. And it was like the world had come full circle. You know what I mean? Now my 31-year-old boy was saying the same kind of a thing again, and this time it just felt so good because I may not be a great person, but I'm really trying to be the person that he's being proud of, And you're going to make decisions in the very near future, and those decisions are going to dictate what you want to be, who you want to be. If you can't answer those questions, I would get with somebody in your 5. I would start meditating. I would start praying. But if done correctly, when we get sober, we clean the board, right? Now we're just that lump of clay. You want to be the same person that you were with no dope? Maybe you do. Maybe you loved who you were. The only problem was drugs. Maybe that's true for you. It's going to be unique to you. And that was not the case for me. I did not like anything about me. I really didn't. I let that stuff take over. Completely take over. I made really, really, really bad decisions. Every single time I had a shot, I made a bad decision. Abstinence will always be there. Absence will always be there, sorry. But at least we're still able to love. You know what? I'm proud of you. I know that you're going through a really tough time, Isha. I won't pretend that I can even wrap my brain around it, because it's one of those things that same book that I write in. I was going to do a show on giants, right? Because I thought the illustration, the mental image of it was just great, like Jurassic Park, right? Or any movie where there's a giant, a massive, huge thing. You hear the go, and the first thing they show you is the ripples on the top of the water glass or the coffee, right? That's how you know it's coming. And then they'll show books rattling on a shelf, and you know that something massive is coming, right? And if you bought your ticket for Jurassic Park, you have a pretty good idea what's coming, right? It's going to be a T-Rex, going to tear the roof off. But the same thing happens in our life. It really does. You just start getting that first tremor, that first sign, and you get that feeling that, you know what? The other shoe's about to drop. And what your giant is, it could be a death. A death in your family is absolutely a giant thing to overcome. It really is. And giants are coming. So when I say it's time to start planning, people, I would have a really good idea what I'm going to do if that happens. I knew that my dad was not going to make it another 4 or 5 years. I hoped he would. But there was a part of, I think, all of us who knew he probably wasn't going to make it to the next year. He was failing, and he was failing pretty fast. But I knew exactly what I was going to do when I got that phone call, right? And it was not get high, and it was not get near anybody that even had a glimpse that maybe they got high. I had people that I knew in advance where I was going to go and sit down and say, hey, you know what, my dad just died, man, and probably need for you to be really close to me all day, because this is a day that it's really going to be hell. I'm going to have a very difficult time getting through this. But if you don't plan for that, if we're going forward, let's have some contingency plans. Your 5 is that plan. You understand? Knowing who you're going to call in the order you're going to call them, right? I'll call him first. He really helps, or she or her first. My dad was one. Never thought I could be proud of. Today I am. He's been sober 11 years and sponsors a number of people. Not a great dad, but now a great person. Wow. That's cool. Tommy, no joke. That's so cool. That really is. The key is I have to continuously pick my butt up and not ghost anymore. Can't miss out anymore. You're absolutely right. You're not going to heal from drug addiction, from a giant taking place in your life. Any kind of healing that is going to take place is going to take place in a crowd. Could be a crowd of 2, right? But the more connection that you have, the less addiction you're going to have. And if you're sitting there and you're thinking, well, when I was doing dope, I was with 8, 9 people a day, then it really hasn't sunk into you yet. The difference between connection and being with people. Because I never connected to anybody that I was doing smack with. Those were just people that showed up at the dope house the same time I did. There's nothing that can be done to prepare yourself for any of those things. But knowing who you're going to call, knowing what you're going to do, no. The devastation, and it's going to be different in every single situation. If you got 19 people who all went through the same event, they all lost the same, the same family member, being a kid or a mother or a father or whatever, every one of them would have a completely different experience. I just knew I knew that if I didn't get on it immediately, the most guilt that I had in my life was because of my father. Because as he was in his last years and as he was wearing out, I wasn't there to help. I wasn't there to do anything. And he was the best man at my wedding. I was just really, really close to my father. And I was terrified that when I got that news, I was not going to be able to not get high. I thought about it a lot. To me, it was really scary. It really was. But I don't know. I'm so afraid of ever doing dope again. I don't have another one in me. I don't. I do this stuff again and it's over. If I do this stuff again, I'm dead. It's really one of those situations. I'm terrified. And I don't know. Maybe, there are other people I know people that cope better with the aftermath of getting sober. I guess that's the way you could put it, the aftermath. But I really, really am. I just want to get off of this planet without doing any. I don't even want surgeries. Honestly, I know I got something really wrong with my left ankle. I mean, really wrong with my left ankle, and I guarantee it needs surgery. But surgery means getting knocked out. It means pain meds. It means so many things that I've done so many times in my life, and I can't do it. I can't do it. It's not something that'll work out. I am paranoid, to be sure, but it's probably the best paranoia that I've ever had. It's probably the only healthy paranoia that I've ever had. I mean, I have a very healthy respect for that substance, and it really makes me want to. I removed the shell from my racing snail to make him go faster, but if anything, it made him more sluggish. Well done, seventh. Haven't seen a good seventh dad joke in a while because I don't spend as much time in the comment section as I used to. So, yes, SpongeBob would be mad at you. If you don't get that reference, SpongeBob doesn't have a cat, he has a snail. SpongeBob used to be a trigger. True story. I used to drive over to this girl's house who was a Gary, that's right. This girl was a prostitute. One of the nicest people I ever met in my life. But she had the ability to make a phone call to get the guy to come to her house. So I would drive over there, usually 2 or 3 other people, and we would all get there at the exact same time. And when you make the call, it usually takes, they say 10 minutes. It's never going to be 10 minutes, right? It's never, ever going to be 10. It's always, 40. But unlike any other place, you weren't outside. You weren't sitting in a parking lot. We'd be at this girl's house and she would just put on SpongeBob and nobody seemed to complain. Yes, he was supposed to be like SpongeBob's cat. Yeah, he Gary meows, which is odd. Took away my parenting rights to boy. Wasn't mine. Shatsy, that's tough. I lost my parenting rights for 12 years. For 12 years. And I was definitely, for a long period of time, that was my go-to excuse for all of my drug use. And for me, the reason, honestly, it was one of the most painful things that I've ever had to endure. But I also learned really quickly that I shut people up really fast. If somebody wanted to give me crap and I'd say, they stole my daughter, everybody just sort of went, that is tough. He was 13. I knew for 7 he wasn't mine. You know what? I've talked about this on the boat before. The mine thing, M-I-N-E, I don't know. I guess that there are people for whom that is super important, and there are people for whom it isn't. You can absolutely fall in love with a child that isn't yours. I have one of each. One that is biologically mine and one that is not. And I can promise you that I don't love one more than the other. And if it was ever close, it wouldn't be the one you thought. I just had such a relationship with one of them that was really, really built. So, yeah, Calhoun was not mine by birth, but I was there the day he was born. And it was a great day. It was one of those, it was a sunny day in Houston. And it was the cold part of the year. It was February. And yeah, he was the angriest looking child you've ever seen. He used to have he'd have this like scowl on his face. Funny kid. But he just bonded with me quicker than he bonded with anybody else. He was definitely a daddy's boy more than a mommy's boy. And greatest thing that ever happened to me. Shatsy, I love that. See, I feel the exact same way. I really do. I feel the exact same way. And I have my baby sister we adopted. Means absolutely nothing to me. In fact, I forget that all the time. When he took Calhoun's, oh, that's so funny. When they handed him to me, he had on this little blue cap. They keep the head of the baby warm. His head filled it. Like he was Beldar Conehead. When Spanx Calhoun came out, it literally was like a traffic cone. And when the woman handed it to me, like I put my hand on it, and it was just, and she looked at me and figured exactly what I was thinking, because she went, that'll be round in a day or two. That happens all the time. And I was like, oh my God. That scared the hell out of me. Oh, 7th. Yeah, 7th, you're funny. It's good to have you back telling jokes. It really is. Mr. Wolf, I don't know if I said hi to you. Conky Dong, good to see you. Noise Opera, always a pleasure. Noise Opera, he's not a cat guy. He's a raccoon guy. True story. Emma Hunt, it was really, really funny. It was literally like, I remember joking with my wife at the time and said, we should call him Beldar. He really, really does have that dome. Well, you said he's 14. The beautiful thing about that, Shatsy, is that the day is coming. The day is coming where the two of you will reunite. And when people told me that, it never made me feel better, and I didn't believe it, but it sure as hell happened. That's why I said, it happened for 12 years. And then it got to the point where, my daughter wasn't having it. She was going to get to know Dad no matter what. And it's been beautiful. Yeah. 4 of our 6, boy, oh boy. Didn't think of maybe getting 8. You know what I mean? It doesn't sound like kids. It's like a litter, isn't it? 6. Good for you, Heather. And she said 4 out of our 6 aren't mine. One of my favorite things is to if people say which one, to just go, I don't remember. I heard that in a story once, but someone had said that, and I just thought that is really the coolest thing. My son had the Conehead appearance as well. Forceps, that's what they told me. I said, well, you must have gotten pretty rugged with those forceps, because honestly, if you put a traffic cone on top of his head, it just would fit perfectly. I will never stop the good fight. The system corrupt. They messed with the wrong mummy. You know what? I don't think you're ever supposed to stop the good fight. I really don't. Yeah, I really did change colors. It scared the hell out of me. Alrighty, aliens. Well, my son, and you know what else he had going for him too was a really, really wicked case of jaundice. So Spanky was yellow with a cone head, but he was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen in my life. We're about to lay down. Love you guys. Good night, all. All right, Diary of a Madman. Stay safe. And sometimes one day at a time doesn't do it. Sometimes it's got to be 5 minutes at a time. My oldest had a cone head after 72 hours of labor and forceps. 72 hours? Good Lord. And you still talk to him? I cannot possibly imagine that. And I mean, and my experience was just standing there. But 72 hours? Good Lord. That's what I just said. Holy Hannah, Vicky Brook. That is just, that's hard to wrap your brain around. I don't want to do anything that feels good for 72 hours, let alone something like that. They don't call it labor for nothing. Yeah, right? I don't want to do anything that feels good for that long. Yeah, and if Johnny Scoville says he's scared by it, right? This is a man who just hurts himself for a living and for fun. My son's head eventually went right, but one thing was never again. I won't speak of such. Okay. Yeah, I mean, if you know, did you give him a really awful name, like you were mad at him or something? Because if they did that, I can't imagine. You know, give him a name like Lucifer or something. What's the one from that? Damien? There you go. Wasn't there? What was that movie? Somebody help me. It's that terrible movie. My daughter was 11 pounds. That is a big kid. Wow. 11 pounds. That was my guess, Tommy Bird. A chicken crossing the road is pull a tree in motion. I had two normal and two ovarian. I was to push. I'm telling you, if guys had, if the responsibility of giving birth fell to men, there would be 130 people on the planet. Troy Michael, you gave him a beautiful name after all of that. I cannot believe it. I would have gone with evil something or other. Had 3 girls. The biggest was 7 pounds, 8 ounces. Could not imagine 11. Wowzers. 11 flipping pounds. My goodness. There would be nobody left. Tommy, you're right, Miss V. Seriously. It would take probably 3 generations, and then it would be done. Yep. It would take maybe 3 generations. So my uncle was almost 11 pounds. And you know what? If you looked at him, you would go, yeah, I'll bet that was a really big baby. Because he looks like John Belushi. He kind of the same build. And he looks like he would probably have come out, a pretty decent sized baby. No, well, here's the thing, Miss V. I don't think we would even get down that road. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think you have an appreciation for just how much we don't like pain. Seriously, if that was the outcome, I just probably would never have sex again. Just would have been like, yeah, I don't know, just watch some football. Got to be something else I could be doing. Charlie Mullen says, hit that like button, subscribe, and share. I do want to, shout out to everybody that's been sharing this, and a lot of people have. And you may notice that it has had a pretty large effect on the number of crew members. We have gotten a pretty good, I always say shot in the arm, which is just such a bad term for this channel. We got a really good bump. That's even worse. People came on board. Yeah, people came on board. I love this boat too. I probably shouldn't talk anymore. Leisure, good to see you. I was 4 pounds, 2 ounces. That is really small. Yeah, that is really small. What a difference there is from most channels to the lifeboat. We have 34 peeps and 43 likes. Oh, great job, crew. Yeah, we are getting closer to that special video. Alrighty, Johnny. Be good. Half of it was my fat head, I'm sure, says Alan Valentine. One more for the algorithm. Tommy Bird. I have said from the get-go what a great idea this boat is. I hope this consultant works out for you, Captain. The boat, and you deserve it. To sell it out so all the way. And I mean, you know what? I will tell you the gospel truth. One of the first things I said to the guy was, I don't want this thing to ever get to a point where, it loses this feel. And his response was that in the time that he has been doing this, it very rarely happens. They've been really engaged from the word go, the people who usually don't seem to really get the fair shake are the new people, and that's kind of sad. But they weren't here when we really sucked, and they weren't here when we were going over to to Facebook, and they weren't here through, just a lot of growing pains. As I said in this morning show, if you go over and you look at Marfoogle, there'll be 3,000 people in the chat, but it's going to be this. You're right, Damien and the Omen, it'll be the same 30 or 40 people chatting at the top every single time, and we all know each other. It doesn't really matter how many people are there. If you're there and you're dancing, 3 weeks, Vicky Brooke, and they said it couldn't be done. That's awesome. That really is. She's doing the happy dance. That's 3 weeks sans nicotine. Well played. That's awesome, Vicky. That really is. Yeah, you know what? Here, let's do this. This one's for Vicky, because that is absolutely amazing. And you know what? If you did that during the best of times, it would be impressive. But you picked a really, really tough time to do that, and it's just really impressive. We are able to talk about the documentary now. Today is the announcement. It will be a great way to share my kiddo's story and the message out to the masses. I pray her testimony will save so many lives. I would. I really look forward to seeing that. They're going to be doing a documentary on what happened to her daughter. In fact, they've already done the documentary. I think it's now just a matter of editing it all together. I actually don't consider it selling out. I mean that by get this out there. Yeah, as far as possible. This boat deserves to be out there and to make this crew as large as possible. I agree with you. You know what, people? I said this on this morning's video. I spent a lot of time recently reading about the crack wars of the 80s and reading about all of these different, when meth kicked in the 90s, and they follow a trend. They follow a discernible, really easy to read trend. And even the first round of the Sackler opioid epidemic, about a year from now, right? Year and a half from now, all of these people that didn't overdose and die are going to be looking for help. And we're not going to just, we're not just a challenge. We're a challenge with, a channel with an army, right? We're a channel with an army of people who really do get the concept of what it means to help somebody get sober. So I think we're going to be a power for good. I really do. And if that sounds cheesy to you, I'm sorry, but I think it really has the opportunity to do something really fantastic. Okay, that's at the top of the hour. I am going to be back tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock. That is a cat in a basket. Who doesn't want to be in a basket? She's got that, she's in the I'm about to run position because she thinks she's going to get a treat. Everybody jump over to, Johnny's going live. If you want to head over to Chase the Heat, I will probably be over there after I take care of my cat. Night, squirrel. You got a night out of that. All righty, people. Love you. We'll see you on the deck tomorrow. God bless. All right, squirrel.